Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is CAS, CIAC Commissioner Glenn Lungarini. Commissioner Lungarini, welcome. How are you?
Doing very well, Pete. It's great to be back in studio with you.
I know. This is actually, you're my second in-studio guest, so welcome. How have you been? What's new?
Things are going very well. We have an exciting spring season that's in progress right now, nearing the end of that, and we are preparing for the first state tournament of the year since we shut down last March due to COVID with our state tournament. So exciting times, and glad these kids are getting good opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's start with a recap of last fall and exactly what happened.
Yeah, you know, it's been a busy year, Pete, and we were grateful that last fall we were able to get most of our sports onto the field for full competition. The only sport that we weren't able to get in full contact competition was football. With that, we were able to engage those kids in low to moderate risk activities, so we were still able to provide instruction. Kids were still able to get moderate contact. They were still able to learn blocking progressions, tackling progressions, so they didn't lose a lot in terms of preparing for moving forward. They were able to engage in passing league type activities as well, which we understand isn't the same as full contact, but we are glad that we can get some experience where at least those kids were together. All of our other sports in the fall, cross country, field hockey, girls volleyball, boys soccer, girls soccer, all were able to have competitive seasons and culminate their season with a conference tournament, which we thought was important. And, you know, our focus as we got back was really on the mental health of kids as much as the physical health of kids. So being able to engage them with their coaches, with their teammates, even when some districts were on hybrid schedules or distance learning, you know, we thought was critical and really gave the kids an opportunity to get back to some sense of normalcy in the sports that they love. And a very successful fall season with the mitigating strategies we put in place. You know, we worked very closely with the Department of Health and are very grateful for the continued collaboration that we have with them today. I mean, as you know, even as recently as last Thursday, mask mandates and things have changed. And this Wednesday, you know, some things will change a little bit more. So we continue that great collaboration with the Department of Health and are grateful for their work in that.
Absolutely. Now, what about as far as how's the school year looking so far?
Yeah, we're seeing a nice progression with the school year along with our sports. And so similarly, when we got back to school, you know, we weren't really sure what to expect and whether or not schools were going to be a place where, you know, maybe some numbers rose or increased, particularly when we got to winter months, right? We weren't really sure how the numbers were going to react when we were primarily indoors. But again, I think through the leadership of the State Department of Education, the incredible work of our school administrators, our superintendents, our boards of education, our principals, and our teachers, you know, they've done an outstanding job of ensuring that we're socially distanced within the schools, good policies with masks where we've kept kids safe. Likewise in athletics, our athletic trainers, our coaches, our officials, our athletic directors have done an outstanding job of ensuring that our kids are doing the things that they need to do to stay safe and yet stay engaged. And our numbers play that out, Pete. In the fall season, we had a very low transmission rate and really showed us that the strategies that we're putting in place are successful.
Now, what about the fall sports? What's that look like?
The fall sports, you know, again, we had a coming up for next year, you mean, Pete? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, so when we look forward to next year, again, we see, we're very optimistic about this. We see the majority of our schools back into full in-person learning at this point. We're starting to see schools be able to give kids some more experiences like proms, you know, and bring some of that normalcy back. We're very excited that, you know, we're in a place where the CDC has recommended and Governor Lamont that, you know, that it's comfortable in some situations to take masks off now, to not need to socially distance as much. You know, I think our schools have done an outstanding job partnering with their various health departments to offer vaccinations to their teachers as well as kids that are able to receive the vaccinations at this point. So hopefully people keep getting vaccinated. And with that, we expect a on-time start to the fall season for all of our fall sports.
All right.
We expect full seasons. We expect state championships in all seasons, fall, winter, spring, next year, and are really excited to get back to normal sports operations.
Now, what exactly is the CIAC, and what do you guys do?
Sure. The CIAC is the governing body for interscholastic athletics for our member schools.
Okay.
So we are a private nonprofit organization, and schools pay a membership fee to be part of our organization. And with that, we work under the direction of the National Federation of High Schools, which is the NFHS. Mm-hmm. We subscribe to their rules of play for interscholastic athletics. With those, we distribute that out to our member schools, and then we also have other rules, regulations around eligibility for student athletes, and try to create as level of a playing field as possible for our kids. But it's all under the mission and the philosophy that education-based athletics are an extension of the school curriculum. Right. It's not about winning and losing. There is nowhere in our philosophy or our mission statement do we talk about winning and losing. Mm-hmm. It's about giving kids an opportunity to develop meaningful relationships and express their identity through the passion of sport, and have those strong connections with their peers and their coaches.
Now, you mentioned the NFHS. Actually, I had the executive director of the NFHS on with me not long ago. What a wonderful person.
Dr. Niehoff is amazing. And, you talk about we're celebrating 50 years of Title IX, right, the 50th anniversary. And when you just think about, what Dr. Niehoff has done, especially in the state of Connecticut, her coaching career, her career as an athlete, a member school teacher, a coach, and she worked as a school principal to executive director, and as my predecessor, she's been a great resource and has been a tremendous leader at the national level.
Absolutely, absolutely. And she's just the half hour that we had together, she just seems like a wonderful, wonderful person.
Very humble and just an outstanding leader, and we're very fortunate to have her at the head of the National Federation.
Now, exactly how close do you guys work with the National Federation?
Very close, at least on a weekly basis, and oftentimes, multiple times a week, we're in contact and discussing things with the National Federation. For example, over the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of conversation in the world of basketball about instituting a shot clock. Looking at how the National Federation is looking at that, and then how that would play down to state associations and considerations for us. So, there's always constant communication of all the sports that are taking place, as well as student leadership opportunities. Again, a lot of people don't think about the CIAC or the National Federation in terms of student leadership, but we have at CIAC an outstanding student equity advisory board, a student athlete advisory board, a sportsmanship committee, and those are all things that also, under the guidance of NFHS, we share on a national level.
So let's talk about some of the advisory boards that you guys have with a little bit more detail.
One of the ones that we're really proud of that we started this year is the Student Equity Advisory Board, and that falls under the direction of Sharice Miller and Henry Rondon, two of our assistant directors at CIAC, and they have brought together a collaboration of student leaders from across the state, of all different backgrounds, different years in school, from freshmen to seniors, males, females, different races, ethnicities, and have also brought together a lot of teacher leaders and adult role models where we can have authentic conversations about culture. We can have authentic conversations about equity of opportunity within our schools. And through that, our students develop projects that we'll be releasing in the next week or so to our member schools, and will be shared with the State Board of Education, that highlight some of the ideas and the pathways that our kids believe can strengthen our schools from an equity standpoint. And I tell you, when you listen to these kids, they just make you so proud. And they're true leaders, whether they're on the field or in the classroom and in our communities. And those are the type of programs that we're excited to offer outside of the competitions that we offer through interscholastic athletics.
Now, as far as spring sports go and spectators, how's that going? Are they allowing spectators?
It continues to be a bit of an ever-changing
exactly.
Model of where we are right now. We follow the DECD sector rules.
Right.
And we will continue to do that throughout our playoffs. Now, with the mask guidance changing, it gives us an opportunity to, again, adopt a little bit with that. So with the masks, we would ask our fans and spectators. We understand that through the CDC guidance and the governor's plan that indoors or outdoors, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask.
Right.
However, again, we want to remind our fans that when you're going to interscholastic athletics, you're going to an education-based experience. Correct. Where, again, our schools and our school systems largely will be keeping their mask mandates throughout the rest of this year.
Absolutely.
We want to keep our kids in in-person instruction. We also have to recognize that our kids, many of them, are not fully vaccinated yet.
Right.
Right. Our 12 and overs have just had the opportunity for about a week or so.
Yep.
So, we need a little bit more time for those kids to get vaccinated, and we don't want to put those kids at risk. So if our local health departments within our school districts or local school district policy has in place that fans will still be required to wear face masks, then those fans should comply and do so. Again, it's about giving kids an opportunity, having kids safe in the sports that we're playing.
Absolutely.
If they feel it's appropriate to follow the state guidance, then that's great. Then they'll have the opportunity to do that. But again, we just encourage our spectators at games. This isn't to argue or be confrontational with anybody.
Absolutely.
It's just to keep kids safe and give them the best opportunity to get out there and play and enjoy those experiences that unfortunately we lost last year.
And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of experiences in the spring sports and plenty of experiences in the fall sports as well.
Absolutely. Great, as you said, great tournament play.
Absolutely.
Upcoming in the spring and looking to full seasons next year.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we got a little bit more time before the break, so what else we want to mention really quick?
Sure. I think, with our spring sports and our tournaments coming up, we're also communicating and working with our league commissioners and our athletic directors right now, about what that might look like. We can't forget that we're still playing in a COVID environment.
Right.
Even though there's a lot of positive things and we're moving in a good direction right now, we still have teams getting quarantined. Mm-hmm. We still have close contacts. And, so that is something that, we're working towards. We want people to understand to run a tournament, we have to have seedings.
Right.
We have to set a tournament.
Absolutely.
And as we move forward, through that, if we have teams that go into quarantine right before the tournament starts, right, that team's not going to be able to compete in the tournament. Exactly. They're not going to be out of quarantine in time. If a team goes into quarantine during the tournament, they're going to have to forfeit that game that they were going to play. The team that they would supposed to play would walk over to the next round, right. And the tournament would continue. Again, there won't be enough time to come out of quarantine and continue playing. And for those other teams in the tournament, we can't keep delaying it. So we do have a hard stop date of June 12th and 13th, that weekend, to finish our tournaments.
Gotcha. Glenn, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Be a pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back.
After a long sheltered winter, we could all use some time outdoors to enjoy our amazing Connecticut trails. Join us for this year's Connecticut Trails Day celebration, June 5th and 6th. Registration opens May 20th to reserve your spot. Masks, social distancing, and pre-registration are required. To register and for updates on outdoor activities and places to explore, visit ctwoodlands.org.
Our fellow Americans.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans.
And soon, they will be available to everyone.
The science is clear. These vaccines will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
They could save your life.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
That's the first step to ending the pandemic and moving our country forward. It's up to you.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. My guest is Glenn Lungarini from the CIAC. Glenn, welcome back. How are you?
Doing very well, Pete.
Thanks for sticking around.
My pleasure.
So, Glenn, we were talking a little bit of off camera before we started taping tonight, and you and I have a mutual friend of Bob Rader. What a great guy.
You know, I think if there's a position more difficult than what we're doing as sports leaders right now, boards of education is got to be right there.
Oh yeah.
You know, and to think of how they've had to manage this year with their superintendents and their school principals, to be able to adjust from a distance learning environment to a hybrid learning to a full in-person, to delivering meals to kids, transportation and all the changes that went with that. And Bob Rader, as the executive director of the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, has just done a tremendous job, and all of our board members who are elected officials in our schools and our communities and their chairs certainly deserve a congratulations and a big thank you for the work that they've done this year.
Absolutely. I'm sure you as well as I know, and you, especially in your role, it hasn't been easy. Hasn't been an easy year.
It hasn't been easy, but what keeps you grounded is every decision that you're making, you're trying to do what's in the best interest of kids. You know that there's some hard decisions that you have to make, but when we're operating in a pandemic for which there's no playbook, nobody gave us the instruction manual of here's how you manage your way through it. And so, I think when you keep the kids at the center of your decision making, keep their health and safety first, keep their commitment to curriculum and instruction second, and then find those ways to engage them in meaningful extracurricular activities, whether it be sport or band or theater or whatever it is that they enjoy. That's what helps that mental health aspect and engage those kids. So again, our boards, our superintendents, administrators, teachers, trainers have just done an outstanding job this year of keeping our kids engaged in very difficult circumstances.
Absolutely. How many schools do you guys represent?
We have 186 member high schools. Okay. And then on the Connecticut Association of School sides, when we factor in elementary schools and middle schools as well, we are just over 900 schools within Connecticut that we represent.
Wow.
So
it's a pretty
big sized organization, but again, good, a good blend of elementary, middle, and high school. So we're able to develop programming and leadership opportunities from kids all the way from the elementary level to that transition of middle school, which is so critical, and then bringing those kids into the high school level where they can really start working on those goals and aspirations post high school graduation.
Absolutely. Now let's talk a little bit about fall of 2021 and what fall sports are going to look like.
Yeah, it's nice to look forward to that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's nice to really look forward to that, especially in within 2 days where hopefully we're going to be taking off masks in a lot of places, and we're very comfortable with the direction that vaccines are going for adults and for kids. So with that, we do see an on-time start for our fall sports, which means we'll have football out there with their OTAs in the third week of August. Yep. We'll have everybody else out there, in that weekend, that last week of August, ready to get back on the field and back into play, and we'll be competing as normal. We're looking forward to those fall championships. The one question that we kind of still have out there a little bit, Pete, is where we're going to be with third-party venues. We know that places like, Dillon Stadium, New Britain, field at Willowbrook Park and Veterans Park, that those stadiums and fields will be able to hold our events. But when we think about college campuses, we're not sure yet what the availability of college campuses will be. So some of the events we use that for in the fall, we do girls swimming oftentimes on college campuses, and so we'll have to be a little bit flexible with that through the first part of next year. But we'll adjust and do whatever we need to do to give kids good experiences.
I was going to say, with like sports like girls swimming, there's not many high schools that have pools, correct?
We have a fair number with pools, and there are a lot of facilities within towns that kids will use, whether it's a swim aquatic center or a swim facility in a town, or a local Y or Boys and Girls Club. So, the access to pools is pretty good in the state. As you said, I would say the majority of our schools don't have a pool on campus, but they have access to a pool. But when we start thinking about bringing spectators in, that's where the challenge comes.
Right.
Even our schools that have pools don't have big seating areas for pools.
Right.
So you're really looking at college facilities, places like Wesleyan, like Southern, like Yale, that have larger seating capacities for pools for championship events.
Yeah, because you don't want to go to a championship event and be squished in 2.5 feet from the next person next to you. It's like,
right. And we certainly realize how important it is for our parents to try to share in those opportunities. So when it's safe to do so, we want to try to give them the best experiences we can as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It seems like you guys are a very busy organization, especially during the school year.
It's year round. Learning never stops, really,
no, of course
right?
Not, no.
And sports, are the same way. And there's always something to do. We're always looking at, preparations for the next season at the same time that we're working on the current season, and even at times thinking years in advance. We mentioned briefly in the first segment, something like the shot clock in basketball. Right. So, there's a winter sport that the National Federation has recently announced that they're going to make that a option as a rule. So it's not going to be mandated in high school that you use a shot clock, but it's going to be an option if a state wants to adopt it. And the member state associations will still maintain their status of playing under NFHS rules, whether you use a shot clock or not. In Connecticut, traditionally, it's been about a 60-40 mix of people in favor of a shot clock versus not in favor. Okay. So now, we have a challenge over the next couple of years of what is the cost of implementing that? Is there enough interest in Connecticut? So that process has already started for us. We're talking with member school athletic directors. We'll be talking with basketball coaches from the Connecticut High School Coaches Association to determine whether Connecticut moves in that direction of a shot clock. So that's just an example, Pete, of how year-round things are going for us in really every sport, but even looking forward to 2 years from now.
Absolutely. You think they're going to mandate the shot clock rule?
We'll have to see where that goes. And as I said, right now in Connecticut, we're at about 60-40. Okay. I think our coaches would largely say yes. Right. Our athletic directors we know are at about 60-40. Yeah. And where we really need to talk to, our principals, our superintendents, our boards of education. We had mentioned Cabe and Bob Rader previously. There's a cost to it. There's a cost to the equipment. There's a cost to the installation. But then there's also a cost of paying an additional staff member at every game, who's going to run that shot clock.
Absolutely.
And it's for varsity, JV, and freshmen. So you're paying that person for 3 additional games. And in championship games, whether it's league tournaments or CIAC events, you may even want another official who's actually managing that clock. So there's some cost to it that oftentimes the coaches don't necessarily factor in, and because it's not their job to. Their job is to look at how do I prepare my kids and what's best for my kids, and it's the job of the administrators to look at how do we do this in a meaningful way that we can financially support.
Absolutely. So it's going to probably come along down the road.
Yeah, it won't be for next year, and the NFHS rule isn't for next year. It starts with the 22-23 school year. Oh. So you'll see next year played out as normal, but again, that's just an example of how something that doesn't go into effect until 2022. We've already started working on what does this look like in Connecticut, and that's some of the things that you'll see CIAC staff members do in every sport throughout the years leading up to that implementation.
We've got a little bit more time left. What else you want to talk about?
I really, in the time that we have, want to thank all of the people involved in our sports. again, I think our athletic trainers have just done such a tremendous job with kids and return to play protocols and all the work that our principals, our athletic directors have had to do in contact tracing. There's something that, again, that nobody was ever trained on contact tracing when they were becoming a teacher or administrator. So the hours that they've put in has just been tremendous. The support of our superintendents and our boards. Our officials have just done a great job, and our parents and our kids, again, none of this would be able to be possible and as successful as it's been if the kids didn't follow along. Right. And we're so fortunate to have great kids that we work with every day. It's why everybody in sports and in schools do what we do. It's because we love working with kids, and really just to our kids want to say thank you. You have done a tremendous job. You've earned everything that you're receiving, and we look forward to getting to the end of the year with great championships and giving you everything you deserve.
Absolutely. Well, Glenn, we're about to run out of time, so I want to thank you for coming down. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
My pleasure, Pete.
All right,
Happy
thanks,
to
Glenn.
be here. Thanks.
You too. On behalf of Glenn Longarini, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time.